Today, I'm going to show you how I paint a big piece of paper and stamp all over it and fold it into a concertina book. And maybe this time my concertina book will be even. I'm gonna really try, but you know me, I don't do things that are even. But join me because I think you're gonna like this video a lot. If you're new here, I'm Autumn and I carve a ton of stamps and I do other mixed media things as well. I would love for you to subscribe and join me on this creative journey because we have a lot of fun here. And if you like stamp carving or you like printmaking, you might want to subscribe. Plus, subscribing helps me and it helps you because it helps YouTube know what you like. And if you like my content, they're going to show you more of it. So that's a bonus. All right, to start, I'm using a big piece of mixed media watercolor paper by Canson, and these are the dimensions right here. I am also using traditional gouache. Now, I use traditional gouache for the most part. That's my go-to paint. So I do use acrylic gouache, but I use it sparingly. I don't use it too often. I just really like the traditional style of traditional gouache, which can be rehydrated. So here are a few of my gouache palettes that I'm just gonna pull out, and I'm gonna cover this paper with some paint. Now, I didn't get the first part of the painting, starting with the paper from blank. And I thought I did, but I didn't. So this is what we have. You can see that I did some landscape, loose washes of color, going vertically on the paper because I knew that's how I was gonna fold it. More on that later. I just started adding more and more gouache, a little bit of water, some marks that would resemble maybe some green life, but for the most part, I just was carefree with it. You can see that I'm doing a landscape feel. I've got the green on the bottom, the browns, a little bit of browns, and I have the sky color on top. And you can see also that I've stacked these because it is going to be folded and I'm taking that into consideration. But I definitely added some abstract elements to it as well. Now here you can see that my paintbrush, I wanted to clean it off, but I didn't want to just get rid of the paint. And I'm putting it on my art table paper, which is underneath the art pad that I'm working on at the moment. And you can see that I just brushed the paint onto the paper, sort of wipe it off. And this is how things build up on my art table paper. This is how it happens organically, and it always provides a great piece of art when I'm done. And you've heard me talk about this, so I know that you know. And I'm also softening it a little bit by wiping it off because I didn't want to cover up the imagery that was underneath, so I just sort of blended it on top, sort of like a glaze. So the painting is dry, it's finished, and I let it dry, and then I pulled out a bunch of inks that I wanted to use. Now primarily these were greens and a little bit of some gold, and I pulled out a pink because I love pink and green, so I had to add some pink in there as well. And I added some other inks later as I was stamping out this masterpiece, and you'll see. I also had some stamped imagery that I have stamped and cut out, and I had it ready to go. I keep these available in case I ever want to use them when I'm collaging or using them in my sketchbook. But this time I didn't use them, and I think that's okay. Okay, so I thought I was just going to stamp on the whole piece of paper without folding it first. It was sort of like stamp and fold later or fold and stamp. So I decided after trying just this one stamp, I thought, what am I doing? I have to fold it. I have to see where I'm going with all of these stamped impressions and how it's going to develop. Now, absolutely, you could just stamp the whole thing, cut it up and fold it up and see what happens That's fun too, but I sort of had a particular purpose in mind. So I tried this one stamp and then I pulled the paper off and I said, I'm folding this so I can see what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing here. Okay, here I go, I'm folding it. Now it's a larger piece of paper, so I really want to be careful that I get it even, because as I said before, I don't do things that are even. Everything has a little bit of a wonk to it. And I do get frustrated when I'm making my concertina books and I'm thinking, why can't I get these more even? So I really gave it a lot of effort, and one of the tricks I used was putting binder clips in place on wherever I could so that it would stay lined up before I went to make the actual fold. One trick about folding that I learned, and this is, unfortunately, I think this is a right-handed person's trick, but I think you could figure it out left-handed. So the fold should be on the right, and you use your bone folder. This is a plastic one, but I'm looking for a really nice wooden one. If anybody knows, let me know. Anyway, so you take the bone folder and you scoop down from the unfolded side to the very bottom of the fold, and then you press up and go upward, following the fold up that way. That is what I did here. You can see me doing it several times. It does help, but I'm still not convinced that I'm going to have an even book. We'll just have to see. So basically all you're doing is folding it in quarters vertically and horizontally, and that's all you need to remember. The only thing you have to think about is what your orientation of your book is going to be. Is it going to be a portrait style orientation, or is it going to be a landscape? And then that's where you need to think about where you're putting your paint and your design and where you're going to make your folds. It's pretty self-explanatory, so I think watching it you'll be able to figure out what I'm saying. Okay, so I have it all folded, I've turned it over to the other side, and I've drawn lines where I'm going to cut. You've seen me make these before, but it's very simple. You're cutting 3 lines. The 2 on the outside are going in the same direction, not all the way to the top, and the one in the middle is going down, not all the way down. So I just put some lines on here so I knew where I was going with this. I think I did it. I think I actually folded a concertina book that was even. I really do. I'm very proud of myself. It's a first. So you can see now why it was important to know where the design was going to play out after I folded up the book, because one panel can be going north and the other panel can be going south. So you have to know which orientation your book plays out, so you know when you're stamping on it, you're not stamping upside down, which is okay, but this isn't what I was aiming for. Okay, so I've got the orientation of my folded book. I know what's up and what's down, or I think I do, but I'm going to take an extra precaution and I'm going to put some Post-its on my pages so that as I'm working with it, I know which direction. Because when you open it up, you see what happens. So I'm really happy with my perfectly folded book, and now it's time to pull my stamps out and get stamping, because it's going to turn into a lovely concertina book. Now, if I really wanted to be super accurate with this, I would have folded it before I painted it so I knew where my blues and my greens were. So in this particular case, Some of my blues were on the bottom on some of these spreads, and I thought that's perfect because I can make them into water, and that's what I did. Stamping the sky, you can see how a little tiny stamp can make a big difference. And that is exactly why I don't throw away any of my rubber stamp scraps. Because they all have potential for stamps, no matter how small. Okay, maybe too small is a thing, but I rein it in a little bit. All right, so I'm coming to the end of it, and I wanted to add some really darker leaves in the foreground and some hanging down from above because I wanted to feel like you were looking into the landscape. It sort of grounds it, and I needed those darker colors as well. Did a little bit of direct-to-paper with my ink pad, meaning I would smear my ink pad directly onto the paper, but you got to be careful. You don't want to wreck your ink pad, so use discretion when you do it. But it's a great way to add color and texture to backgrounds and sketchbooks and whatever. So it's also a great way to test colors if you're not sure how they look. Now that it's mostly done, I'm going to edge some of the really harsh edges with this blender and my ink pad. And I think it just sort of gives it a really nice touch. It's very subtle, but I like it. And of course, I had to add the little fish in the pond and a bird. And a butterfly, because I wanted to tell more of a story. I really resisted adding a little house, but I can always do it for another project. Well, here it is, all finished. I'm super happy about it. And I decided I needed to cover the back. So I just unfolded it, flipped it over, and then did a wash of green watercolor. After I painted it, I let it dry, and then I folded it back together and put it under a heavy book so that it could rest there and dry overnight. It was dry, but you know what I mean. And it makes it really nice and flat and manageable. So I'm really super happy about it. Oh, it's upside down. See, maybe I should put an image on the front so I know which is the front and the back. But I just think it turned out absolutely adorable. It was a blast to make. I felt like I was really in the flow state, and it just felt so good. Okay, big news about my art retreat in Vermont. It's going to be September 12th through the 15th, 2025, and we are going to explore stamp carving and printing with our stamps and a lot of different techniques, and it's going to be an absolute blast. It's going to be at the Smiley-Manse in Springfield, Vermont. And it's not going to be peak foliage season, but trust me, I used to live in Vermont. September isn't bad in Vermont either. I would love to see you there. If you have any questions, message me in the comments here. And of course, I'm going to leave a link below. But here are a few shots of this beautiful farmhouse setting in Vermont that we're just going to have a blast carving stamps and block printing and making prints and all kinds of fun stuff. You don't want to miss it. I mean, it's so beautiful there. I cannot wait. It's going to be heaven. Heaven, I'm telling you. Join me. That was a lot of fun, and I'm really tempted to just go make a whole nother one again, but I have videos to make, so I got to get this one edited and share it with you because I just had a blast, and I hope you did too.